was an interestingly nice shot of King Durin Sr.'s giant sausage fingers as they come creeping into the shot so he could give his cursed ring object a good fondling. So in episode 5, they're all digging for sunlight. I don't know if it's just me, but you think after living in this mountain for generations, the dwarves would know it inside out by now. Sure, they live inside it and they've supposedly communicated with it before, so if they know the mountain that well, shouldn't they be able to figure out other places where the light could come through? I mean, assuming that they're magical to some degree, given they can sing and the mountain listens, or it used to. But I'm pretty sure that it doesn't just require the special singers to reveal the mountain secrets. Do they not have anyone who mapped the terrain outside? Like, I get that these mountains are massive, but still, you'd think they'd have someone for that. I don't know, maybe it's just my paranoid mind, but if you're that dependent on the light and it has only a few openings, wouldn't you have some kind of backup plan in case those get blocked? You know, it seems like they'd have the kind of technology and scaffolding to open up the other light sources if needed. For beings who spent a ridiculous amount of time in the rock and use it for everything, you'd think they know how to manipulate it in every possible way. Yes, I'm gonna go for a little tangent here. Look, I get that not every dwarf is an expert, but they've been digging for a while and still haven't found any light, right? That's kind of hard to believe. And can they even climb? I mean, when you look at the Denobulans from Star Trek Enterprise, like Dr. Phlox, in season 2, episode 21, they scale rocks easily, probably because they're used to it from their home world. But then again, I've been watching way too much Star Trek Enterprise lately.
We don't have any climbing gear.
You mean to tell us that you climbed down that rock face without any ropes? Any safety equipment at all?
Exactly.
Well, in that case, after you.
I love Trip. So cute. And Malcolm too, my two best men. Seriously, if you guys haven't watched Star Trek, I mean, while we're here, right? You guys haven't watched Star Trek Enterprise? Oh my God. I am so glad my husband put me onto this and he forced me to sit down and watch it because oh my God, what a show. I love it to pieces. Even freaking Big Nozzle Neck over here used to get on my freaking nerves, starting to grow on me, especially at the beginning of season 3 when he just does not give any shits whatsoever. Oh, that's the guy I want to see. Good job, Archer. I'm loving it, man. Loving it. Oh, okay. Anyways, we're here to talk about the stupid freaking rings of power. Where was I? Oh yeah, the whole rock climbing thing. So look, I'm not an expert. Okay, like I said, I don't know much about the lore, but even freaking divers, you know, sea divers, they don't spend their entire lives underwater. They're still trained in basic survival skills. Like, I don't know, how to find oxygen, how to ascend without getting the bends. I assume scuba divers are also taught to do when they're injured, how to breathe, how to respond to underwater threats. Stuff that makes sense for their occupation or lifestyle. Meanwhile, these freaking dwarves who have literally been born and raised inside rock, who live and breathe mining, apparently can't figure out their own domain without magic, giving them step-by-step instructions. I'm sorry, but tell me in what world that makes sense. And yes, I'm aware I'm probably nitpicking. I get that, but still, it just feels like a lazy narrative device just to let the ring solve all their problems. Especially given that it was just an immediate solution for the elves. Yeah, okay, regular humans wouldn't know where to dig in a situation like this. But why wouldn't the dwarves? This can't possibly be their first cave in evil influence or not. I know people are probably gonna say, well, it's in line with the original Lord of the Rings story. Well, sorry, not sorry, but if that's the case, then the source material is kind of dumb. So anyway, the king is like, you dig here and you dig here, and the ring tells him where to dig, and he starts digging, doesn't need any rest, and then the light pours in, and they're like, oh shit, let him cook. We found the light, and once again, they have all the light, and he's like, where? We bring the sun to us? And now Disa, the one who actually wanted the rings to be a thing, is all concerned. Like, girl, why are you upset? You're the one that was pushing for these rings in the first place. Now that you're irrelevant, now you have an issue with it?
Yeah! We bring the sun to us.
The music's nice though, but here's another, I'm sorry. My mind is like super curious about things like this. Okay, so like the idea of dwarves having dark skin and rings of power like doesn't really align with their traditional lore and environment. And from what I could see, dwarves, according to Tolkien's writings, are a race of things or creatures that evolved to live underground, n'est pas? Deep within mountains and caves where light is scarce or nearly non-existent. Generations upon generations of dwarves lived in these environments, which would suggest their physical traits race should have adapted to these conditions. In a world where evolution plays a part in shaping a race's characteristics, beings who live in these really dark, enclosed spaces would likely have lighter skin tones similar to cave-dwelling creatures. In reality, animals and even human populations that have adapted to low-light environments often exhibit lighter skin so they can maximize vitamin D absorption from the minimal light sources they encounter. And having dark skin, which provides protection from the sun's UV rays, would kind of seem counterproductive in an environment where sunlight is rare or entirely absent. Same thing for having eyes. Also, I'm curious how their farming and agricultural systems work. Since they have such limited sunlight, like lack of sunlight, I would more so believe that they could sustain themselves through the underground farming stuff where they can grow hardy plants that don't require a lot of light. Something like, I don't know, fungi or crops that adapted to low light conditions. Since their lives revolve around stone and mining and surviving in caves, the traits that would benefit them most would be those adapted to minimal exposure to natural light. All this to say that a race of things that have been living predominantly in the cave or very low light conditions for countless generations, the notion of dark skin doesn't really make sense from a biological or environmental standpoint. Even Doran is too dark. And if the counter argument is that these aren't humans, fine, but then why are we trying to make them mirror human ethnic diversity and population dynamics? Also, I'm curious, is it possible for dwarves to breed with outside species? I know some people might get annoyed for me asking all these questions, but I'm genuinely curious. I really love genetics. I also want to note that I don't see anything personally wrong with different ethnicities coming together and swirling, as some people call it. We're all the same species anyway. I actually think it's quite beautiful when it's not forced, that is. You know, you love who you love. If the dwarves evolved as a species that predominantly lives underground and they only use sunlight to grow food, not like to bask in or whatever, what would be the need for people with extremely melanated skin or even dark hair? Like I said, even the Dorans are still darker in comparison than how I imagine dwarves would probably have to look like. Everyone looks like they've been working out in the sun, except from this one granny woman who looks like a freaking ghost. You know, I'd expect most of the dwarves to be like extremely fair-skinned, maybe red-haired or something, because they wouldn't need much pigment. And I can already hear people, well, it's a fantasy story, it's not supposed to reflect reality. But the same studios are also championing diversity so it does reflect the real world. That's the excuse they always use. So I'm just wondering scientifically how it comes into play. And the same goes for the elves. In things like Game of Thrones or even Star Trek, it was really interesting to see different aliens or creatures with various ethnic backgrounds. What's cute is that in Star Trek, all the humans were diverse, which made sense because they represent the human race and they come from different parts and areas on Earth. But they were also all living on the surface of Earth, and by then humans weren't exactly all separated except for region, and it's not like it's that far away from our timeline anyway. But if more humans became spacefaring over time, everyone, if they're all mixing together to unify, we'd all start looking more or less the same. It would actually become rarer in the very distant future to see a fully Caucasian or fully Japanese or Korean person or fully Nigerian person. I love the show so much. Trip's so hot. The poll's hot too, damn. Oh my God, I got like a spoiler. I can't wait. Oh, and you see that, I know I'm going so off topic, but this is the problem why we have an entertainment. Like, people are upset. Nobody was upset of it back then. Nobody was upset. I don't find a problem with it. And these people are like, the over-sexualization of T'Pol. Everyone's fantasizing about her and blah, blah, blah. It's creepy and degrading, maybe because you guys don't get laid. Go outside and touch some dick. Okay, maybe not do that. You'll probably go to jail. No, if you're a woman, you won't. You'll probably get away with it. But don't take my word for it. Anyway, moving on. Like I said with the dwarves, I imagine that over many generations of them living together in this cave, they would look pretty similar in complexion with only like slight differences, maybe in hair color. And a race that's been mixing with only each other for generations without any outside influence, especially living underground without sunlight, would likely end up looking very similar. The diversity might come in things like height or facial structure or how big their hands are, but complexion? I don't know, I don't see it. In this Tolkien universe, no matter what race of creature it is, except for the orcs, even with the elves, it just seems like everyone just recently came together. Even the people, the humans, it's confusing. Honestly, from a storytelling perspective, I would think it'd be more interesting to have dwarves in one region with one complexion and dwarves from another kingdom with a different one. For example, look what they did with the Avatar series. The Reef Na'vi or the Ometakaya have a completely different complexion and facial features than that of the Forest Na'vi or Jungle Na'vi Navi, the Metcaina. The Rainforest Navi have more Afrocentric features, likely because of the many actors that are playing them more or less have that ancestry. Meanwhile, in Avatar 2, Way of the Water, the Marine Navi are clearly influenced by the Maori culture of New Zealand. For me, and I know for a lot of people, that makes the world feel richer and more real. Look, you can tell Jake Sully and the Amatakaya chief and his wife look very different. You can tell they're from different places, even the way they wear their hair. True diversity isn't just about mixing ethnicities all in one location, it's about showing different cultures, personalities, and appearances within the same ethnic group. Old fantasy shows did this well too. So for people who are upset at others for pointing out these facts, it's not that the audience doesn't want diversity. After all, we've had it for a long time and no one was complaining. We just wanted to feel more immersive and believable. Sorry, I know that was so far off topic.
The doors of Durin.
Is that supposed to be some like magical revelation or something?
The new west gate of our mountain. Unbreachable, visible only by moonlight.
So they say that this thing is unbreachable, visible only by moonlight, and guarded by a password only known to friends, which I'm guessing Anatar and Celebrimbor are going to have access to. Yet, for someone who doesn't really know much about the lore, I don't really know what the significance of this is, and they don't really do a good job of bringing it up or expounding on it. But anyway, while all the celebratory stuff is happening with the dwarves, obviously, Sauron is not happy about this.
Too much? My remarks?
I encouraged you to keep it short.
No. Do not recall you saying that.
Well, you do not always listen.
Why are they bickering like a married couple? And how much time has passed? And then Celebrimbor was like, oh, I should have spoken longer, to credit your contributions, which only makes him look like an idiot because you were up there that long and yet you completely forgot about this god character that you were in awe with only moments ago or weeks ago, however long. We don't even know how time moves now. But Anatar, aka Sauron, that Celebrimbor doesn't know is Sauron, is like, yeah, well, I would be more in a dick-chewing mood if we could make the rings for men. But he doesn't come out and say it.
Most affected by Mordor's rise is still suffering.
Rings for men.
I did not say anything about rings.
It is a game you play.
Now, this is the part that entirely confuses me. And forgive me if I'm one of those people that everything is just going over my scalp. But Celebrimbor comes out and calls out Anatar on the very thing that he's doing. But yet, how does he know this? And after having revealed to us that Celebrimbor is aware that he is doing this, why would he continue working with Anatar? It's so confusing to me.
Say anything about rings.
It is a game you play, is it not? Sowing seeds in others' minds and then convincing them that the fruit is of their own thought.
I thought our minds were as one in this. Or have you had a change of heart?
This is a night for dwarves. Come, we shall speak of men tomorrow.
The way that he looks at his shoulder is like, bitch, did you forget who I was? Do I need to remind you? Do I need to blow fire out of my mouth and into your fucking throat? You know darn well Sauron could very well remind Celebrimbor of who he is, and he chooses not to. The whole argument is Celebrimbor thinking that men are too corrupt, really, when you were acting like the most corrupt racist. He says they have their home already. We don't need them. They're too corrupt. And then Anatar's like, okay, you're right, but they also have good people among them, and they start naming off all these names of people who I guess we're supposed to know, but we don't, because those of us who don't know the lore, and we're depending on this to be our introduction, you would think that would be something that they would show and not just tell us, because if you had little visual snippets here and there of these men that you're mentioning that were honorable and the things that they did, you would think it would drive it home more the goodness of men instead of you just saying it. But no, they don't do that. Celebrimbor is like, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Anatar says we should find the most noble, wisest, purest of heart men. And guess what Celebrimbor says after he gives this beautiful speech?
I am sorry. My answer is no.
I'm sorry, what now?
This is the face of someone who's about to break someone else's face. Bro, he looks like that dude that's dying inside. The guy who looks like it always hurts to freaking smile. So as if this wasn't an issue, he's like, I'll just make them myself. Like, he literally is just like, okay, I'm gonna do it myself then. You're not gonna help me? Sure. So wait a minute, you could have done that all along. Why did you waste time then? Anyway, we're back to these idiots. This guy and his son, who we all hate, but not enough because it's not like he's that important or memorable for us to hate with the vigor that we're required to. The father's like, your mother prophesied that you would come to ill ends, and he's like laughing about it, like he doesn't like his son. Is that guy not his? I mean, he does look like, I hate to say it, but a different ethnicity than this kid. I mean, some kid can pass as other ethnicities if they're mixed, but does this guy look like he's related to freaking fat Jafar over here? These two are obviously in love, and they're just making it more cringe than it needs to be. They're like, we can fight. Okay, sure. And possibly they can change the future and the faith and blah, blah, blah. No one cares. So Discount Moss from IT Crowd is like, yeah, they're going around and stripping people of their ranks because we're still loyal to the queen. What now? The daughter, who's a freaking traitorous asshole, was like, Daddy, I'm sorry, but like all of y'all are like guilty of treason. It's not my fault. You're fucking guilty. Meanwhile, he's like, I wish I'd never had any girls.
That which is sacred.
I mock that which is absurd. Ar-Pharazôn is your king.
Why does she have such a strong face for such a small person? She looks like a little man. The captain is stripped of his rank too in front of everyone, but everyone still calls him captain, which this dude does not like. What he also doesn't like is that Moss from IT Crowd seems to be really chummy with little masculine miss here. And I'm just starting to like this Moss character. Only just now. This guy looks jealous as hell. Meanwhile, this guy's touching his blue ball. Because even though people are against it, he's now using it for his own benefit. And now Lord Celebrimbor is seeing that Anatar is still making the rings, while there's a voiceover of him having written, no sideburns guy, that he was still loyal to him as the High King Elf. Newsflash, he's not. I do like the interaction between Disa and Durin. They do feel like an actual, damn, she looks crazed, sorry. They feel like a real married couple, except I'm scared for Durin's life because when you look at her, like this alone right here is like thumbnail material. Why do they make her look so haunting? None of the other dwarves have eyes like this, which again engenders my curiosity as to where the hell her people came from. Does she even have a people? Why do her eyes look like Disney Lion King characters' eyes? Why does she look like a fucking monster and the other dwarves look almost normal? There has to be a story behind that because nobody else has it. Even the people who are dark as she is or darker than she is do not have eyes that look like this. So please explain this to me.
I think he knows a thing or two about wielding power.
That kind of power would test even the most virtuous of dwarves. I pray your father keeps his path true.
Or what, you gonna stab me? Don't wave that at me while you're saying that. That shit's really sharp, bro. Maybe use them to poke out your eyes and get some color in them or something. I don't know what's going on, what you're eating, but bro. Already the foreshadowing and Durin's just there sitting there. Why does Durin always appear so weak? Okay, that's not fair. He doesn't always appear like that. When he's trying to face off against his father, he is like that. He can be stubborn. I just hope he keeps like that. But with his wife, whenever there's the two of them, there used to be a back and forth dynamic. And maybe he's just soft because he really loves his wife and whatnot, but it feels like there's not enough pushback. It just feels like she's the voice of reason who's always like, Durin, you have to do this. Durin, you have to do that. You have to do this. And he's like, I don't know, maybe, nah, I don't wanna. Okay, I mean, I guess. Like, they're before they had more of a interesting, beneficial, mutual dynamic, and now it seems like Disa is the one who's basically running everything. She's not running over her husband. It just feels like it's a little bit unbalanced.
This is for a wee girl's birthday next week. Spare a bit for her sake. We'll give you 100.
100?
100. How's that sound?
Like mine, shaft, robbery.
Also, remember they have children? Yeah, I didn't either. They never show them anymore. So anyway, she gets the ball thing. Then she ends up accidentally dropping it. It gets kicked. She goes into this cave, and while she's following it, she comes upon a clearing and hears something very ominous. So you can use your powers. So it works like sonar? How? Whatever. You don't like when the mountain sings back? So now we know that there's a Balrog or something down there. Disa doesn't seem to know what it is. The king gives the other rings to the other dwarves, kings, whatever. And that's when we started noticing that the king is not himself. Like, this could have been a movie all by itself, to be honest. The whole dwarven story with the monster that's underneath the crypt or wherever it is. The dwarves becoming corrupt. I just feel like there's way too much going on in the Rings of Power. And there's so much of it, and the writing is so subpar that nobody cares about anything or any of the characters. Except for maybe Durin. Obviously, the king is very corrupt. Or he's getting there. And Durin is concerned. His father's like, yeah, your wife doesn't know what she's talking about, bro. And of course, Anatar is back to his manipulation to make Celebrimbor want to help him. Turns out that the girl who likes Anatar was invisible and she had the ring on. And she was like, I was in this dark place. It was shrouded in misted darkness. Oh my God, remember Frodo? And Anatar's like, it's okay, honey. Let me press up against you. So Anatar plays him and he's like, look, we keep running into these bad situations because you're not counseling us, and it would save us a lot of issues if you would give us like one word of counseling, bro. This is your fault. So Celebrimbor gets a visit from Durin. Again, I don't know how time is supposed to work in this fantasy story because Durin seems as though it doesn't take any time for him to just come over. Are these places right next to each other? I have no idea. But Durin tells Celebrimbor about the rings. His father is being colder and more irritable and greedy, and greed has never been his way, so it's weird. So he's like, is it possible that the ring he's wearing is an issue? And Celebrimbor's like, no, we use the same process for the elves, Durin. It can't be. And Durin is like, listen, you might want to consider that dude that you're working with. How well do you know him, my guy? And Celebrimbor's like, you know what? As a matter of fact, not really at all.
Till I had helped him to heal.
You speak of Lord Celebrimbor?
Yes.
Son Diakina.
Promise me you'll speak to none other of it, including him.
I promise.
How strange. When the light caught your hair, for a moment you seemed her perfect likeness.
Whose likeness?
Why, Lady Galadriel's, of course.
Oh my God, he thinks I'm pretty. Moist. Yo, the riz on this guy though, oh shit. Like, I'm sorry, like, if it were me. Yeah, I don't know, dude. He's a freaking god. Like what are you gonna do? And he's freaking like that, and he's like, I'm so powerful. I got golden energy. Can't you see it? You can smell it wafting off of me. The golden flecks are catching your lips, and you're getting a taste of my golden flavor. How could you resist me? Even Celebrimbor can't resist me. You see these lips? Well, not really, but you see like what they would be if they were on your lips. Stop! Then all shit breaks loose when these guys are trying to exercise their faith, and Numbnuts over there is like, yeah, by the way, this shrine is condemned by the king. I don't care if it's been here for generations. I want you to leave. They want to actually tear down the shrine to make way for a new aqueduct. I don't see how the new king thought this was gonna go over well with the people.
How does it feel to have a daughter who's ashamed of you?
Bro is asking to get slapped, I swear. He has a perfectly choppable neck. And this guy is like, he just had enough. What are with the guards here? This is the prince, apparently. And the guards always let people punch and slap the people they're supposed to be protecting and then react afterwards. It doesn't make any sense. So he has to have the guards hold Ned Stark, discount Ned Stark over here so he can punch him. Moss from IT Crowd's like, get your hand off him. He said, this shrine is for the faithful. You're not one of them. Faithful to who? Where are these things that you're faithful to, or person that you're faithful to? I mean, I imagine you could use their help about now. Meanwhile, the god they're faithful to is just eating popcorn watching all of this go down. So then fights break out, and of course, Moss from IT Crowd like bodies this guy after he almost drowns. And I actually start caring for him. Like, I actually literally start, that means that something bad's gonna happen. It's like, okay, the one character that you actually start caring for, that you probably should have followed closely, something's gonna happen to him, isn't it? So when he is like, he gets the upper hand, and of course, Moss from IT Crowd is like, bro, what are you doing with that sword? Get away from me. Oh, that was perfect. Oh, that was a perfect shot on both accounts. But the captain tells him to stop after he dislocates this kid's shoulder. Captain's like, don't do it, bro. I know you want to, don't do it. That's an order. And the guy still respects his captain. And so he's like, okay, daddy, you got this. But then he turns his back on that person. You never turn your back on slimy enemies. It doesn't matter. Why would you turn your back? This is just horrible writing. It's so stupid. funny. It wasn't funny the first time I watched it. I was just annoyed because I was thinking to myself, what predictable ass-uppery writing this is, and how sad that this character is dead. We didn't even get to know him long enough for us to fully feel for him. It just comes off as a great annoyance. And the freaking guard is back there like, oh dear, like, oh. Instead of causing, de-escalating, you. And so he's like, oh my God. That sucks. And then he dies in Discount Ned Stark's arms, because of course he does. Now we don't care. I don't even know what this guy's name was. We're jumping around so much in this freaking show that we don't even get time. And the one impressive character that I can say, okay, he's likable, I can see us going somewhere with him if they continue, he just dies. This is some huge veins in that guy's freaking hand. But anyway, the guy who he saw like a son, he dies in his arms. And then there really isn't much about him afterwards. You think, oh, this is gonna be a big deal. Newsflash, it isn't. Celebrimbor asks Anatar if he did something with the ring. And I like how Anatar turns it around and he's like, yeah, come to think of it, there's deceit. And Anatar's like, that letter that you wrote, you lied. We introduced deceit into the ring. You have to go to Linden or things are gonna get worse. See how he turns it around on him? And Dodorin knows all of this. He's like, some devilry has gone to the rings. Daddy, you have to take it off. And then he guilts Dodorin by making him his right-hand man again, which is so sad. And he has the king collar around and Disa's like, oh no, are you serious?
Swear to me that you will never wear one of those rings.
Only in bed, baby. Dodorin, oh my.
The last hammer stroke done to perfection, or did hubris and sloth come together to dull your attention?
So all of the diverse elves are like, God damn, like, why is he so mad at us? And he's doing this to deflect from the fact that he is the one who introduced deceit into the elves. And in the background, Anatar is turning the elves against him, like literally in the background. He's all the way in there like, yeah, I whispered in their ear behind your back. But in the end, Anatar gets what he wants, which is them doing the rings together. And I like Sauron because he's playing every single one of the characters for a fool. And I can't stand the other characters because they're all just being stupid. It's not even like Sauron is smarter than they are. They're just all dumber than the average person. And I thought that elves were supposed to be less corruptible than humans and a little bit smarter, but they're not. Like, look at that. Where are these elves from? And why does the darker one doesn't have long hair? What is wrong with these people? Meanwhile, the orcs march to Eregion, and now people are like, yeah, this is bad. Elrond knows that he has to go there. He thinks that Sauron is the architect of all the evil happening, or the ring or whatnot. If Eregion falls, it's going to be a mortal blow for all of Middle-earth. Anything that happens anywhere near these characters is going to be bad for Middle-earth. They always say that. At this point, why do we care? Now that Galadriel is captured, Orc family guy over here is like, you are keeping me from being with my family. No, you're keeping you from your family. Aren't they free? Technically, they don't have to follow Adar, but they're choosing to. If he doesn't want to fight, why doesn't he just go away? What is Adar gonna do? Force him to stay? In that case, then you're still slaves then, aren't you? Even though you keep slaves. But anyway, Adar is like, we share a common enemy, Lizard Lips. Sauron. We will get him together. Team up and take him down. And then Sauron looks all longingly into the distance with his evil, pretty eyes. And that's the end of the adventure that episode 5 took us on. It just gets crazier, and apparently the story is gonna get even more crazy than this. The writing in the show is so freaking hilarious. This feels like a superficial, nothing story popped out by an AI bot, and people are just playing along. There doesn't feel like there's any soul in any of these characters. And if they did start off with soul, it's kindly dissipated over time. If you ask me what they're fighting for or what the point is, the only thing I remember is Sauron. Nobody likes Sauron. That's it. If you ask me about the characters' personalities, Galadriel doesn't hold herself accountable to anything, and everyone just does their own thing, and yeah, everyone's dumb. That's basically what I catch from this. I couldn't really tell you because none of them feel like they have any actual personality, or they're just going around in circles, or the show has failed to make me care enough about the show to even want to remotely discuss it outside of just reviewing it.
After 2 seasons, I think we were wrong about the Rings of Power. We. Who's we? Because in this immediate part of the follow-up, you separate yourself from fans of the movies, fans of the general franchise, and say that you are just a general movie fan, so you always seem to have the opposite reaction that most shows get when they get heavy backlash from the actual fans that they're directed towards, aka the name of the show, who it draws in, who it's supposed to make happy, them, you're not one of them. So, who is we?
Hush.